a master teacher of clown, but also guide, mentor, inspiration, truth teller, and a loving friend to a generation of clown performers. She's also the reason I'm here doing this. I hope you're ready for some straight-talking wisdom from Sue Morrison.
Welcome to the Clown Spirit Podcast. And here's your clowntastic host, Mr. Barnaby King.
This episode is going to be one of those where I take a Clownversation from the last 3 years and I edit it down to about half an hour. But it's a little different. The reason I chose this Clownversation next is because last week I was talking about what kind of person becomes a clown, and I told my own story, my clown genesis story. And of course, I talked quite a bit about Sue Morrison, my original clown teacher. And so I thought it would be interesting this week to go to the Clownversation that I did with Sue a few years ago. It's really different from a lot of the other Clownversations because it's much more of a conversation than an interview. And I think you can really feel the closeness between us and the relationship, the collaborative partnership that we had. More than me just asking questions, there's a lot more back and forth. And I was thinking, as I was editing it, about taking out some of those more informal kind of moments where we're talking over each other or laughing at something that happened. And I, for the most part, decided to keep them in because I think it just captures really well the flavor of who she is and the relationship that we have. There's so much wisdom packed into this half-hour podcast. Almost everything Sue says is interesting in some way. I really wish that you could see the video. In fact, you can. If you go to my YouTube channel, Clown Spirit, and you take a look at the Clownversations, you'll find this whole Clownversation that I had with Sue, and you can see her there on video as well. And it's interesting. At one point, as I was editing the audio, I was hearing these noises, these clapping noises, and I thought there was something wrong with the recording. And then I went back to the video and I realized that she is actually clapping quite a lot, clicking her fingers and clapping and making these different percussive noises to emphasize or to make a point as she's talking. She's very animated and expressive. We talk a lot about Clown Through Mask. She explains what that is. It's the workshop that she teaches every year in Toronto, just to give it a little bit of context. I really hope you enjoy this one. It's a very special one for me. Sue is the reason that I am a clown. And so I always keep her constantly in view, acknowledging, giving gratitude, recognizing the work that she does and the impact that she's had on my life. So it's fitting that she should feature early in this new podcast. Here she is. Enjoy.
I did it!
You did it!
Again, twice in one day. Good.
Hello.
Hi, Barnaby.
Hi, Sue.
Are you not telling me? You have to tell when that first day in class when you were like, I don't know if I'm coming back. You can't ask me to do this. That was funny.
I didn't mention that part, did I?
Yeah, but it was so great. It was funny. And you came back. So
I did come back. I think it was like fear. It was a lot of fear.
it was like a lot like fear. Yeah.
Now, I always ask this question, Sue, so I'm going to have to ask it to you as well. And I hope you don't mind telling the story for the millionth time. But how did this clowning bug, if that's the right way to describe it, how did it get to you? How did you discover the world and discover that it was your passion and your world?
I think to start off, I would have to say that I never liked clowns. I was held hostage at a parade once when I was a little girl. And anyway, I never liked clowns, really. And I was doing, I don't remember, Barnaby. I was doing a lot of improv in Toronto, a lot of improv, and I loved it. And one evening I was out at a theater and there was like this shitty little piece of paper that said Clown Through Mask, had a silhouette of Richard Pachinko's face. And I thought, wow, I'm very intrigued by mask, but clowning, what, I don't know. And so I phoned the number, and the woman said, we started the class, but you can come if you want. And I thought, oh man, if this is some airy fairy artsy fartsy thing, I'm out. And I'm there in this crappy studio, and Richard walked into the room, and yeah, Jody said, Richard, this is Sue. She wants to, and he was like, yeah, welcome, let's go. And that was it. And then I was just, yeah, it's like a virus. What is that bug thing? It's a virus. And then you do it because you can't not do it. There's no other way of being. And then it starts getting your life and whatever. See your head, your heart. And because I had the question if I wonder what it's like to work from my heart and not just from my head, because comedy for me had really been that from there. So that's what the kind of universe threw in my path, and acknowledging and gratitude to Richard for everything.
Yeah. Can we just talk a little bit about Richard? What kind of a person was he, and what was his journey into clown?
For one thing, he looked like a football player, which I was very comfortable with because I used to be a trainer for a men's football team. So I was like, I can handle this guy. Okay. He was at Lecoq, and it was, I guess, the 70s. And he got a grant from Canada to go and study different people in Europe. And while he was there, he started having these dreams, and where he was shown a book. He was very not airy fairy. He was just very down to earth about extraordinary things that happened in people's paths. And that relaxed me because I had weird things that happened. So Lecoq said to him at one point, you should go back to Canada and you should make your own form of clown. And I thought that was pretty terrific. And while he was there, he worked with Saul Grotowski, I think probably Peter Brook. He was touring around. And then Richard carried on, was studying on the West Coast, actually, with Barry Rawls. He was doing a lot of mask work, found himself opening. At a certain point, he encountered John Smith, who was his guide, and he indoctrinated him into the Indigenous First Nations philosophy of clown, which is if you ever face all directions of yourself at once, you can only laugh at the beauty of your own ridiculousness. So that's a relief. Nobody's perfect, and we can go out, and our failures can be the most celebrated things, about us. How we navigate them or survive them or don't survive them.
You connected with Richard because you were both down to earth, straightforward, grounded people who weren't airy fairy, as you describe it, or artsy fartsy or woo at all. And yet you were both really aware of these other forces or other energies and experiences that you were having. Even as you describe them, I think maybe your audience is much more willing to accept those things than you are in a way. It's like there's a sense of, I sound weird if I say these things. But I think we've gone so far now that it doesn't sound weird at all. It sounds
normal. It's just my normal life. I don't want to speak for Richard, but I can say for myself that it just is my life. It's not like this other thing that I'm hoping to experience, or it's not an outside thing to me. It's very much it's just part of me. So if you normalize it, you can work with it. I remember having a very scary experience at one time, and I went to do clown class that night, and he said, I said, Richard, this happened, and oh my God. And he said, I remember the first time I met my guides. No problem, let's go. And I laughed, and it was like, okay, that happened, and that's okay, that happened, and let's go. And I really am like, let's go.
So Richard kind of did a version of Clown Through Mask that incorporated these different things, and some of the exercises were drawn from Lecoq or at different places, but
it's like he went in the back door of all of them. I feel like he turned them inside out. And whether we're working with color or waving goodbye to someone you love, or any of these whatever these exercises or processes are, before we even can get to wear a mask or create a mask but wear a mask, there are things that are inside out, and I love that. And it's so for clown, right? We're contrary. So in a way, we have to go in, because, and we don't. like first you have to do a certain amount of work and clown through mask, like on the personal level, very just a sousson of that. And then you can move on to masks, which you don't want anything from your personal life. You can recognize an emotion or a feeling or a quality, but if your grandmother comes in the improvisation, you wait. And because the expression of something that isn't us is much easier than trying to express how we felt about grandma or something. But it takes sentimentality out of it, which I love emotion, but I don't like sentimentality. It's a bit boring and manipulative.
And sentimentality comes from being too identified with.
I think when you love the thing too much, or that's the thing that you're deciding to put out as the reason for why you are, which is crazy. Actually, I'm a very sentimental person, but yeah,
it's interesting that you're sentimental, but you don't like that in your work. You don't put that into your work.
No, because you can't attach yourself and define yourself by one thing, because we're not one thing. We're a lot of things. And that's why the masks are not finite experiences, but they're the beginning of, for example, one north or two south. They're the beginning of these directions. And the masks continue for me to be alive because they're always going to be potentially, they're in new situations all the time. So you can't limit them. You can't know as like clown would never do that, or oh no, I don't think clown does that. Really? Clown could be the president of the United States? He's not actually, but yeah, you can't limit it. It's a very unknowable, constant experience working in clown. And that is what I think I really love about it. Because I don't know. And because when you make a show, we have to have the script. We've got like 7 or 8 or 10 pages. But the script is always the it's an embarkation point. It's the reason we come out on the stage, and it's the reason people come in. But I'm not limited to those moments that are already in the script, which are hopefully quite wonderful. But so that when you potentially improvise during your show or your number, people won't know what is the script and what is of the moment sort of thing. And so that's why I think improv is a great bodybuilding exercise for clown to understand the arc of a show.
There's so much in what you're saying that I want to pick up on that I don't know where to start. Maybe we can just give, for people who are listening who don't have the context, is there a way that you can describe the Clown Through Mask workshop that would help them understand how it works?
So far, no. Even when there's like a blurb on the flyer, it's I don't know what actually happens in that thing, but whatever. But it's a process of work that where you make a series of 6 masks facing 6 directions. And for me, it's the building of a personal mythology. That's the best way I've been able to describe it. And it's not what you think you know about yourself, or how you think you will work really well, but it's actually how you do work well, and what people really, what you can learn, or experience is a better word, maybe what you can experience, what an audience can experience, and how to take an audience into your world. Because there should be, you know this from our many hours together, but the 4 elements would be to present yourself, take me into your world, transform me, and bring me back with a new awareness. Because I feel at a clown show, you should never leave that show in the same state as when you arrived. Like really, there's a shift. It's not like you leave and you go, let's go for a hamburger now. It's like something shifts, and in some way you feel that possibly the performer was speaking about you or to you or about your experiences. So they're telling your story in this other way.
And that's interestingly, that is planted right from the very beginning in the fundamental present yourself exercise. Like when somebody does that exercise and they just come out and they stand with the nose and a hat and they just connect with each person in the workshop. When you're watching and experiencing that, you feel that it's all about you.
Absolutely. It's an art that tells your story and makes you feel seen. And I think that's a lovely thing for people to be seen in an individual way. Just, I'm seeing you, and I'm not just lumping you into a demographic or that kind of thing. I'm seeing something beyond whatever the accoutrements are, you see the potential. It's not the idea that I have of your potential or your idea of your potential, which is always a limited, not always, probably most of the time, it's very fixed. It's probably a pretty fixed idea. But when the conversation happens, when you connect with those energies with another person, with the audience, yeah, then you're in a conversation, and that's always more interesting than a monologue. It's dialogue.
For me, Sue, it's such an interesting experience every time I perform, is that there's always that dance between working from the heart and the energy and the flow. And then on the other hand, that voice that starts to tell you, oh, this bit, that just didn't work, or you haven't got connection right now, or it's not flowing right. I'm not getting the laughs in the right place. And then you start getting your head.
I think a great thing for us to be able to do is to stand in that moment, to think on the outside. We don't try to hide the failure or but take a moment of accepting or acknowledging or dealing with, and it could just be like a split second, and it just needed to have that moment, which is just really a moment of vulnerability and humanity, really. And because I don't want to watch something that's so choreographed that it could exist whether as an audience member I'm there or not. I want to be part of what is happening, this evening, whatever. So yeah, it's also when this thing comes, people say, how do I know which is the right impulse or what? You got to just exercise, you got to work a lot. But one thing to think is this making the moment more, or is this making the moment less? Is this taking me to the next place or not? And if it's making you or the show smaller, then it's obviously not. But if it's enriching the experience, then yes.
I'm just going to jump in here to let you know something about Clown Spirit Village. My name is Barnaby. I'm the founder of Clown Spirit and Clown Spirit Village, and the person that kind of keeps it all running. My mission is to unleash as many clowns into the world as possible. And in order to achieve this goal, I created Clown Spirit Village for you. We're always introducing new features, ways to help you get clowning more into your everyday life. And I just wanted to tell you about one of them. It's called Performance Space. Any member of Clown Spirit Village can take advantage of this. It's a way to try out new material and get feedback from experts. We had one last month, and we invited Jeff Raz to give feedback to all the participants. An extremely experienced professional clown. It's an amazing opportunity to hone your work in front of some of the best directors, teachers, and performers in the world without any of the expense of hiring them or traveling to work with them. One more quick thing. I wanted to let you know that from the 10th to the 13th of April, we're going to be having a wonderful conference online all about clowning. It's called Clownversation. And there's going to be tons of amazing opportunities to interact and learn from high-level clown teachers and performers in workshops, presentations, panel discussions, and lots of opportunities to network and connect with them and with many other people in the clowning community. It's going to be truly fantastic. So put it in your calendar right now, April 10th to 13th, Clownversation. And now let's get back to that Clownversation.
What have you noticed about clowning, or what do you think about the sort of effect of the pandemic and COVID on the world of clown? Has that crystallized into anything for you yet, or is it just let's move on and get back to where we were?
I have to say, when the pandemic hit, I was like, whew, I need a holiday, I need a break. I could never give myself that. But I was like, okay, great. So I enjoyed probably the first year. I cleaned a lot of closets, read a lot of books. But then after, I was like, oh man, okay, something is really away from me right now. Yeah, I think that's the best way to say it. I felt away because I guess I think there's times where clown is great. It's perfect. It's just what we need. And then I think there's times like that it's not appropriate, especially if it's not done in a really sensitive way. So I have to say, for me, I wasn't feeling so clowny. Like I just went into a quiet cycle.
Is the death of a queen one of those times when it's not appropriate to clown, do you think?
I have to say, because the thing for me in clown, and this sounds extremely sentimental and hokey, but it's got to be about love. And I know that's so hokey sounding. And I actually saw a comment from a guy who's a clown, and it was so rude. Yeah, it's just rude. It's just because you're a clown or you're whatever, or we whatever teach clown doesn't give you carte blanche to do or say anything. I think timing, and man, it's the secret of comedy, but I think there's a timing thing. And I've been to funerals where people were laughing, at times. And then people were during the same funeral, you're crying, Richard Street funeral, for example.
I don't know who it was who said comedy equals tragedy plus time.
Yeah, I don't know if that was Woody Allen or
Maybe it was Woody Allen, yeah. Maybe we should replace time with timing.
Yeah, depends how microscopic you're going to go. I don't know. I think there's, I don't know. I think there's timeliness.
Do you have a lot of hospital clowns who come to your workshops? Do you know a lot of hospital clowns?
Yes.
Because that's something that I have really avoided in my life. I just can't imagine it in that situation of kind of tension and stress, having to clown in that. And yet people do, and I know that they do, and some of them do an amazing job.
Absolutely. I think if you can make your work or experience about the other and not about what you need, then I think that's a great way to look at it. For example, hospital clowning. This can't be about me wanting to show you that I'm the best juggler ever. It's got to be about what does the room need? And as clown, I think we're there to serve the room, not to serve ourselves, for sure.
Which comes back to what you were saying about love.
I know it sounds so booky, but it is really, it's true. And it's not like romantic love or anything like that. It's about humanity. I don't even like the labels anymore. I think really Clown Through Mask is like an incredible creative process of creativity and enrichment. And I think that's lovely. I think that's great.
I really want to have time to talk a bit about our process together, the show that we created. And
Barnaby, there's still lines that so stick. Friendship can be one-sided, and I've got to find something to care about, which you totally have now, and you have children and a wife and all of that. But it's so funny. I have a terrible memory. I can't remember anything, like even what I started at the beginning of a sentence, but I remember it was a very big, profound moment, Barnaby, creating work with you.
Yeah. Love to just share really briefly with people watching as well about the process, because I think the process by which we made that show, and that's, I think, the process you use normally is quite unique. It was basically like hours and hours of improvising, sometimes interacting, sometimes just me in the space with you watching. And
it was always a conversation in the space.
Yeah, it wasn't
when it wasn't verbal. So that continued the same. Conversation doesn't have to be verbal. We should have said that.
So you become a kind of implicit audience, so that I'm never speaking to myself. I'm always in conversation. And then, so we compile hours and hours of video material, and then we transcribe it, or I transcribe it.
You transcribe it. I go for a coffee. Or shopping.
Grueling and
draining, grueling, absolutely grueling process.
But also very revealing, because you just see. It's important to watch.
Yes. Camera doesn't lie.
Yeah. And what you're doing is often taking me through the masks, right? When we're in the space improvising, you're calling out different masks and we're going through them.
Yeah.
And then from that transcription of all that material, we spent, I don't know, days
Yes, days.
highlighting, circling what we love, and then literally cutting it out and arranging it into different kind of themes or
Well, you
ideas.
kind of think, okay, here's a thing. We've got the entrance. Oh, we've got reveal of piano or whatever. Oh, there are moments that I see. You can call them scenes, but it's not a scene. It's just the heading of a moment, and through that arc. So all those, as you're saying, Barbie, any lines that we love, and it doesn't matter what they mean, or we're not attaching ourselves in any way to it, except that we loved it, but we're not making it fit any idea that we have. And we think, oh, this would be a nice line to start the show with, or this is a great line to go in the piano. This is a great, and then you can, like a puzzle, you think it could fit here or here, but maybe it's going to go here. So there's a lot of cutting and Scotch tape involved.
Yeah, I remember it being very difficult to make the final decisions about what would be the first line, for example. And it could be this, it could be this, so many possibilities. And I think we went through 9 or 10 pretty different versions of the script.
Probably, because look at it, like after all of that work that we've done, now you've got to play it. And now we're going to see how to make sure things serve the logic of the clown, of you. And let's just say you, because you are clown, that serves the arc of the piece. And sometimes in a show, a line that meant one thing and has a certain reaction can actually mean something else and have a different kind of reaction. And I like that elastic quality to a piece. So, and that's anyway, but it's a very evolutionary thing. If you played that show with basically the same script as we did, I don't know how many years ago, Barnaby, it'd be interesting to see what your relationship is with that show now.
Would be really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And so these shows are not finite things. If I made that show, I got to make another show. It's play this show, find out, because there's still a lot of you that I don't know, can happen in this show, more than what you think can happen in the show. And again, that depends on audience and, that kind of thing, or how you feel that night. Things are both different.
I don't know if I ever told you this, but I did it in Spanish, translated it into Spanish, and it created these different nuances and jokes. For example, but the word for bird, pajarito, is also a word for male genitalia.
Oh, that's awkward. So
when I say, oh, my birdie's died,
yeah, quick translation to the audience.
The audience just burst out laughing, and I had no idea why the first time.
I'd love to see your reaction to them laughing. This is not, and then holding up the whatever.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I actually, when preparing to talk to you, I was rereading the script, and there was some stuff that was like, wow.
That's scary, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, really nice.
Because I was very young. I was in my 20s when I did this. And you can see all of that. I can see all of that angst of the 20s and being like, what is my life going to be? And trying to struggle with my identity at that time. But I feel like a lot of that is really relevant now, as I'm in a sort of midlife kind of moment, calling into question all the things that we think of as achievements or.
Wow, so true. Yeah.
Who are we? The sum of our actions.
Big silence. Nobody does that. Yeah.
And this thing of wanting to be great, which is, I think, the underlying theme of the whole show for me was raw genius, right? I want to be great. I want to be fantastic. And I'm just always mediocre.
Oh my gosh. I remember going for a coffee. We took a break and somebody was playing the piano in the upstairs of this coffee shop. And I was like, oh, that's great. Oh, Barnaby, you play the piano. And you were like, what did you say? Yeah, but I'm not great like that. Or anyway, it was so, you had to be there, but it was so funny.
Yeah.
And I think it was like a big pretext or whatever for the show. I think it was a kind of a clarifying arrival moment of, oh, this is what this show is about. Because I usually have an idea what the show is about. Well, pretty much always. But I don't want, when we're working, I don't want you to have that limitation. I want you to just be free falling. And then we find out when we put it in the big blender what it was actually about.
And there's the whole thing of the bird and this inability to notice
Yeah.
the bird's suffering or the bird's dead, or
Oh,
this mistreatment, abuse of the bird, and then this kind of guilt about, oh, I'm not good carer, I can't look after anything, I need to find something to care about. And as a parent as well, that has a completely new
yeah.
kind of thing to it.
Doesn't that come back to, it can't be just your agenda when you're a clown.
Mm.
To learn to work with sort of the agenda of the room, because that enables conversation. Otherwise, it's a monologue, just me at you telling. And I want to, as much as I want you to be affected, the audience to be affected or moved or whatever by the work, I also have to be moved and affected by it. But it's good if we both are.
Oh, that's beautiful. So that brings us all full circle to where we started the conversation, that you need the audience to feel different when they leave than when they arrived, right? And that those 4 stages in a performance of present yourself, take me into your world, transform me, and bring me back with a new awareness. And so there was this question that arose when you were saying that about transformation. What does transformation mean? And I think you just answered it in a way, but maybe we could riff on that a little bit, because you said that it's not just we don't just want to transform the audience. We don't want to just take them through something. We have to go through something.
So you are given the tools for that when you create your mask and when you wear your mask. You get the 2 sides, you get an experience and an innocence. So they're usually 2 different qualities, emotional or attitude, they're 2 different things. So to begin the turn, you enter the space in either the quality or feeling of the experience or the innocence. So you don't just come in and then start working like 3 seconds later, like you're working all the time. As soon as you enter, you're in, for example, 3 experience. At some point during that turn, something's going to happen, or you will notice something, or something changes in the number in the room and piece, and you change to innocence. It switches, for example, to innocence. So you can go from 3 experience to 3 innocence, or you can go from 2 innocence to 5 experience as you build your repertoire, your language, your pedagogy. So that's transformation. Because it's really like the masks are not the clown. The clown really lives in between all of those places, between thought and action, panic possibilities, between the thunder and lightning. And it's where everything is possible at any moment. And that can be like an absolute split second where you transition, and it's from your logic. It's from the logic of, I don't know, what do you want to say? Masks, clown, you, the actor. That's what it enables or facilitates the change of that. Oh yeah. So that's about transformation for me. And so one really quick story that has been passed down to me from some Indigenous friends, actors. So you can come to the circle and tell your terrible story, and everybody says, poor thing. And you come the next night to the circle and you tell your story, and everybody says, poor thing. And then the next night you come to the circle and you tell your terrible story, and the circle gets up and moves away from you, because the thing is, you just like telling your terrible story. You don't want to change. You're not actually letting another thing happen. So that's why you can't define yourself by one thing, because you are not one thing. You can't hold on to this idea or this limit or this idea of a characterization. Yeah, you've got to be open to the possibilities of the universe. That sounds hippie, but
was it Abraham Lincoln or somebody like that who said people are pretty much as happy as they decide they're going to be?
oh I have no idea who said that, but I think that's quite true. Yeah, that's true. Sometimes.
But just links to what you just said in that we have this freedom to shift if we choose and want to shift. But so many of us, for some reason, we choose to stay stuck.
I think, and it's not, because I know I certainly fall into that at times. It's like, I can only watch television for 2 weeks. That's it. No, that's happened. So it's sometimes that's all you can do. Sometimes you got to do the only thing that you can do, but don't believe it's the only thing you can do. Sometimes you have to change your, I just had a deja vu. That's nice. You have to, wow, that's funny. You have to change your location, change who you're talking to, change something.
I hope you enjoyed that edited version of the Clownversation with Sue Morrison. As I said, you can catch the whole thing on my YouTube channel. Please do leave us a review. We really would love to hear from you, what you'd like to hear more of. Why not give us a thumbs up or share it on social media with your friends? Let's help to get the word out there about clowning and how it can change your life, just like it changed mine. Thanks so much for listening. As always, keep clowning.